Hello all, and this will be the proper review of Ring of Honor's Best of the World 2011. And yeah, if you saw my other little quick review, which I did on my cell phone, mainly because I had watched the last half of the pay-per-view, everything, well not everything, but a good portion of the matches. I saw all of the main event, I saw most of the tag match, and I saw most of the TV match on my phone. About an hour before the pay-per-view started, on Twitter, they announced that you were going to be able to watch the pay-per-view if you had ordered it, or if you ordered it from your iPhone, your Android type thing, your iPads, all of that. You could watch it. Took me a while to figure out that I was going to have to update the Flash, the Adobe Flash player on my card, or on my phone, which easily did through our marketplace, and I was able to actually watch the pay-per-view, which was fairly awesome. Not the pay-per-view was awesome, but I got to watch it at work while we were dead at work, and was able, and doing other things, and was able to actually watch the pay-per-view, which was pretty great, I thought. Technology is awesome, so anyone that didn't get to see the pay-per-view and had ordered it, or anyone that's going to order a replay, and I would recommend ordering the replay of this, it's definitely worth checking out. It's good stuff, and not gonna lie, I would love to come on here and do like I did a year ago for Death Before Dishonor and tell you, you know what, yeah, I told you so, but I didn't come on here and do that type of video to preview it, so I hate to say that I told you so. But this was definitely, I thought, a really, I wouldn't say an amazing show, but I would call it a great show. I don't think the undercard delivered enough, though you could argue that that might be the case. But still, I think it was a very, very awesome show. But let me actually start with the dark match, which I haven't seen, but a lot of people have talked about. Cole Riley, as I guess they're known, Adam Cole and Riley, they had a match with the Generation Me, the Young Bucks. And a lot of people were upset about this match because the Bravado Brothers interfered at the end. The match went about 10 minutes. Apparently, from what I've heard, it was an awesome match with lots of it was very fast-paced, lots of high spots. You know, your basic X Division type match. Very spotty, but very entertaining. But the Bravado Brothers wound up interfering, and some people are very upset about this. So my point is, why are you upset about this? If you watch the video wires, if you were paying attention to the Ring of Honor storylines, and you would know that the Bravado Brothers had said basically they were going to do something because they were upset that they didn't get their shot on the pay-per-view. So I figured, and I thought most people had figured, that this is what was going to happen, was that we were going to get interference during this match. That was kind of the tip. And a fuck finish. Now, I'm not defending a fuck finish, because fuck finishes are fuck finishes, but if you give somebody 10 minutes of really great, entertaining wrestling, and then give them a fuck finish, yeah, it kind of pisses people off, but it's better than giving somebody a match that's just kind of okay, and then giving them just a fuck finish. Then it's like, well, why did I, you know, what was the point of that? At least give me something entertaining leading up to the fuck finish, which is what apparently we got. So I'm completely fine with that, and I don't understand why people are not. But, hey, what do I know? Anyways, to the pay-per-view proper. We started with Colt Cabana versus Ciampa. Okay match. I would say I wouldn't say it was a good match, but it was definitely an okay match. Wasn't anything horrible by any stretches of the imagination. It was kind of sloppy, but I did think it had some good comedy spots, and I do like comedy wrestling myself, so I enjoyed it. And I thought it was for what it was. You know, nothing really stood out, but I thought it was pretty good for that. So hey, I was fine with it. So there you go. Then we got Homicide, or what did we get? We got Mike Bennett versus Jay Lethal. And a pretty good match. I thought it was a fun good little match. Jay Lethal's return. Like I said in my preview, I thought that this would probably be a pretty good to good match. I thought Jay Lethal would definitely work a style with Mike Bennett that would be pretty good, and it was. Jay Lethal was mad over, and people wanted to see him, and he played up the Macho Man stuff a little bit, which I think a lot of people wanted to see, particularly with the passing of Macho Man Randy Savage. So that was nice to see, and a fun little match. So that was pretty good. Then we got Homicide and Rhino in a Borio street fight, which, what's the difference between that and a regular street fight? I don't know, but that's what we got. I thought this was good for what it was. I mean, they went out there, they did a couple table spots, they brawled for a little bit. It was a nice little hardcore match. And, at the very end, we got Homicide, who probably will be leaving at least for a while or whatever is going to happen with Homicide. Got gored through a table by Rhino, and they played it up like he was dead. And Rhino looked pretty good, and here's the thing. Some people were kind of upset when they brought in Rhino, and I'm not quite sure why. Rhino is a name. Is he a big name? No, but he is a name. You're not pushing him to the top. He's definitely a guy that can go out there and have good matches with people, and entertaining matches with people, I think. And I think if you use him correctly, I have no problem with him, with Ring of Honor using him. I really don't. I think that he would be a good fit myself. So there you go. So, but I like this match. I thought it was pretty good. We got a couple of ECW chants and heard like that. The replay I watched, the crowd wasn't mic'd very good. But then again, from some of the live reports I've heard and from talking to people that were there live, that might have been a good thing, because there were a lot of people here. Probably somewhere around 3,000 people were at the show, so that's a ton of people. And with that, we're not, necessarily the die-hard Ring of Honor fans. There were a lot of, I've heard people say mainstream fans. I wouldn't necessarily say that. I think it's just non-die-hard Ring of Honor fans that probably didn't know everything that was going on. And they were definitely into this match because they knew who Rhino was, and they probably knew who Homicide was as well. So there you go. Then we got Steve Corino taking on Michael Elgin, and this was I thought a pretty good match, but was overshadowed by kind of the booking surrounding it. They did bring out Kevin Steen before the match because Steve Corino was like, Kevin Steen is here. He came out. Ring of Honor officials wound up dragging him out of the building and kicking him out, and then they had the match, and it was a pretty good little match. Michael Elgin got to show, his power and how strong he is and his power spots, and I thought that came off very well. And then after the match, which Elgin won, they beat down Corino and Jimmy Jacobs, and so Kevin Steen eventually made that. I thought the beatdown probably went a little too long, but eventually Kevin Steen did come back and save the day, and it looked like, and finally was allowed to get on the mic, and it looked like going to apologize and ask for forgiveness and do all of these things. And we got, I don't even know if you can really call it was a swerve, but it was a swerve that really wasn't a swerve, because it was like it was the heel staying heel instead of turning face. So it's like, is it really a swerve, or is it just, it was a swerve because we all thought he was going to come in as a face. And he attacked Corino, he attacked Jimmy Jacobs, said fuck Ring of Honor. Was still the most over guy there. The match itself, I said, was, like I said, pretty good, but if you bookend it with the Kevin Steen stuff, and the fact that, you started with the Kevin Steen stuff, which I think kind of took away from the match, because then people were like, okay, we want Kevin Steen back. Instead of, I think they would have been more into it, you had just, kept maybe Kevin Steen out, and then had Kevin Steen come in, but it's not what they did. That part of it was like 5 stars, I would say, and it was awesome. But the match itself was pretty good, maybe 2 3/4, something like that. Thought it was entertaining, served its purpose, and I thought they did a really good job with it, so there you go. Then we got the intermission, And then we got Christopher Daniels taking on El Generico. This match definitely suffered from the crowd knowing that Christopher Daniels was 90% going to lose the title. And this was a long match, which I think was okay because I think, you know, it was a title match. It was for the TV title, which hadn't been defended for a while. And so you have a fairly long kind of built-up match for that. And I think that was okay. I know some people have kind of been like, oh, and, you know, this match was just okay and kind of under-delivered. I don't know about under-delivered, I just don't think the crowd was into it because I think they knew El Generico was going to win, so they were just kind of waiting for El Generico to win, unfortunately, and the match was long, and I think that hurt it. So, you know, if you want to give it a negative, I would just say the match probably just went a little too long. Maybe if they were going to book it, maybe they just should have had El Generico instead of being the face in peril, which he does really well, and so that would be, you know, your first instinct would be to book the match like that, of just having El Generico just kind of beat up Christopher Daniels, and Christopher Daniels and Truth Martini use heel tactics, so Christopher Daniels just kind of looks like he's going to survive the match until El Generico finally wins. I think that maybe that crowd would have got into it a little bit more, but I think he was just in a bad situation because people just figured El Generico was going to win, so they were waiting for El Generico to win. Then we got the four-way tag. This was a very, very long match, but I enjoyed this myself. Anyone that, you know, has watched my videos for a while knows I love tag team wrestling. You had the Briscoes, you had the All Night Express, you had the Kings of Wrestling, and you had Wrestling's Greatest Tag Team. And they all came out, they hyped it up. This was a long match, which it should have been, and really made the titles look important. My only real complaint with the match would be, I think the Briscoes did probably go out too quick, but given that, you know, you would probably then have the Kings of Wrestling go out quick, and that might not have been the message that Ring of Honor wanted to send, because then people would be like, oh, the Kings of Wrestling are leaving, and maybe they were like, well, we don't want to do that because the Kings of Wrestling aren't leaving, so what we're going to do is we're just going to have the Briscoes lose first, because I don't think you have the All Night Express lose because you needed to make it look like they actually deserved to be in the match. So on that part of it, I do think the Briscoes losing first kind of defeated the crowd, because I definitely think the Briscoes are a pretty hot act right now, particularly after the video wires and the promos they've done, the matches that they've had. I think the fans just expected them to be there, and then I think when they lost, I think the fans were just kind of like, okay. But we got some really good spots. We got some really good stuff. You know, I did kind of question the crowd when we got this is racist, when we got Shelton and Kenny King, even though just about everybody I know has wanted to see that match for a long time. I mean, ever since that Shelton showed up in Ring of Honor, people have wanted to see that match because they're very similar styles, and people just thought it'd be a good match to see. And while they were in the ring together, it was a lot of fun to see. And then of course AMX got defeated, which they probably should have been the second team to be eliminated. Then it came down to Kings of Wrestling versus Wrestling's Greatest Tag Team, Shelton and Haas, and they had a pretty good little match, I would say. I mean, the definitely maybe the greatest UFO spot I can remember seeing. The ending did kind of come out of nowhere, and that kind of hurt the match to me, but I still think that this was a pretty great match, and definitely should see it, because it was really good. A long match, enjoyable match. It's a match you just sit down and watch. It is kind of slow in parts, and I think they kind of lost the crowd there, because I think the crowd was expecting this X Division crazy, 4 teams, all action all the time, and that's really not what we got. We got a long elimination, more of a traditional type match, and I personally enjoyed it, and I would imagine most people probably did. And then we got the main event, which was billed and everything. I think most people who bought this pay-per-view probably bought it for this match, which was Eddie Edwards and Davey Richards, and they delivered on all counts. This was an amazing, amazing match to watch. 5 stars. Watching it, I didn't think so. Did the end of the match with the speech and Davey on the mic and thanking his grandparents and was that emotional and maybe could that have put it over? Maybe, but it's definitely, no matter what, it's definitely a match you need to go out everywhere to see. There's no question. This match itself was definitely worth the price of the pay-per-view. Not counting, the other 2 title matches, which I think definitely are matches worth seeing, and I don't think there was nothing bad on the undercard. This match was just really, really something to see. Hard-hitting, some good reversals. I really think that even though I think people expected Davey to win, and they still had that doubt, I think at some point they really did feel like, ooh, maybe Davey's not going to win this match. And I think that's why, you just got energy from the crowd after he won. It was really, really good. They delivered really well. The whole thing after the match was just something to see within itself. And it's definitely something worth checking out. This whole pay-per-view is worth checking out. Again, Ring of Honor just delivered. They did what they had to do. I will say this. Ring of Honor, the worst Ring of Honor can do on these pay-per-views as far as, quality has to be very good to, really good. If you're going to go by my ratings, I would say a 7.5 is as low as they can go. Ever. That's as low. That is a terrible that's a terrible pay-per-view for them. Everything has to be great to amazing. It has to be that way because you don't have the TV exposure yet, and even when they have their TV exposure, it's not going to be a lot. It's going to be better than what they already have, and it'll definitely be an improvement. And I think definitely they can build upon it. I mean, just from the live reports and the amount of people that were there, and the fact that there did seem to be newer fans and more mainstream fans there. I think that's a good sign for Ring of Honor, even if it is in New York City. And I definitely think that that's what they have to do. That's what they it's not to harp on TNA, but it's a lot like TNA. TNA has to go out and they have to outperform WWE, and not just by putting on. I think TNA has to put on. I think they can still put on okay pay-per-views, but the vast majority of their pay-per-views have to be great. And they can put on some good pay-per-views, but at the very least they can, an okay pay-per-view would be a bad pay-per-view for TNA, and they can only put on maybe 1 or 2 of those a year. Everything else has to be good to great, and some amazing put in there, where I think Ring of Honor has put on amazing to great, and maybe one a year they might be able to put on a good pay-per-view. I mean, that's really what it boils down to. So on that end of it, I think they did everything they needed to do. I think El Generico winning, they needed to do that. I think El Generico going in as the TV title is a good thing. Tag match, maybe the Briscoes going in would have been a little better, but it looks like we're going to continue the AMX Briscoe feud, which I'm fine with that. Shelton and Haas as the tag titles, I think that would be okay. I mean, they're people that at least I would say even the more mainstream diehard fans know of and would probably be willing to watch. So I'm fine with them being the tag titles. As I said, Davey's champion. I don't know if Davey's champion going into TV is the best thing, but apparently that's what we're gonna have. I'm fine with. I am fine with it. I just think that I wouldn't be surprised when we get to TV if Kevin Steen is still kind of on the outside looking in, and we get a lot of that sort of. That's kind of the build of the promotion is about Kevin Steen when the whole thing starts. But that's just me. So let's see. What would I give this pay-per-view? I would give this pay-per-view. I really, really like this pay-per-view. I would give it an 8.75. I think it had 2 great matches. It had 1 really good match. Nothing on the undercard sucked. You had
an amazing segment. I mean, this was definitely worth $15. And I would, and even not even looking at the money, just looking at 4 hours of just the fact that you got a lot of just really good, even the bad stuff didn't suck, and you were like, about it, in my opinion. So I give it an 8.75. Definitely recommend go checking it out. As I said, if you haven't ordered it and you do wind up ordering it, hey, you can watch it on your phone, you watch it on your iPad while you're, at lunch or going to school or going to work or doing whatever. It's definitely something that's now a little bit easier to check out. So that is an excellent thing. So with that, I'm out. Have a good one. Later.